Time ago, I was at Brother Jack Treber's church to speak for a mother-daughter banquet and to be honored, actually, in their Sunday night service in a hall of honor that they give to some of the ladies around the country. And on Saturday, they asked if I wanted to go someplace shopping, or I said I'd like to see some nature, and I saw this. I knew when I saw it that I'd never forget it. I'm sure there are redwood trees lying within redwood trees many, many places. I'm sure there are trees lying in the Smokies and in the Poconos and other places just like this. I just know that that day this sight struck me, the one above. As we were going through the redwood forest, that particular redwood forest of the smaller redwoods close to his church, the train went in among the trees, and the man that was talking with us over the loudspeaker on the train said, "You're viewing two trees, two friends to this tree that had held up that tree 100 years before it started growing again." And I started crying. I guess I'd been held up so much that I realized that there are people who will hold up others as long as, in people years maybe, as long as trees will hold up another tree for years. My husband, Dr. Evans, would you come out, please? My husband has held me up. Back in 1983, there was a year when, honestly, I don't know if we had much communication, much discussion. I really just shut myself off from all people, as I've described to you before. At that time, the chemotherapy and the drugs that we were taking, that we cancer people were taking, were not even offset by Zofran, which is a marvelous drug to help people. Keep that in your mind, Zofran. If you'll stand back here, that's great. And if my husband will come up here, please, I can tell him where to come. Just now, right? Stand right here if you would. And there was a year that I really didn't want to talk to him, but I didn't want him to talk to anybody else either. And I didn't want him to leave, but I didn't want him to be there. And there was no way he could win. And he just didn't ever say anything about it. Finally, at the end of that time, I said, "How did you stand that?" And he said, "I always thought you'd get better." He always hoped and believed I would get better. And it was like this, honey. It wasn't two, it was one, but it was like you were waiting for me to grow again and get better again. And he just waited. And I wish you could tell them how to wait for someone a little bit, just a couple things of how to wait. I've not told you I wanted you to do this, but you're able to do
that. During that long period, she just didn't want to talk much at all, which is not exactly like Marlene. And the Marlene that I'd known ever since I was 19. But I tell you, I vowed one thing, that I would never complain about her talking again, if she ever started talking again. But of course, it wasn't nearly as hard for me as it was for her. But she said every time we'd go out to eat still for breakfast quite often, she said every time that I would say something positive, she could think of 10 negatives. And again, that's not like Marlene, but that's what those chemicals will do to you. So it was a matter of waiting. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. And being patient, God made me a gradualist, so I just waited for that gradual process that would bring her back to me, and how I thank God for these years that we've had together. And we celebrated our 40th anniversary about a year ago, and had a wonderful anniversary trip this past summer. And so God's been really good to us. So I would say, if you're going through a rough time about your mate being sick, just wait. Just wait. Be patient. Just don't give up and keep praying. There's an old song that says, just keep on praying till the light breaks through, and the light will break through.
Thank you, honey. And now I want him and his group to sing a song, if they would, please.
God is so wonderful, I can't explain, but I can say, glory, hallelujah, praise His holy name. It's wonderful because He saved me. It's wonderful that He forgave me. Oh, it's wonderful, wonderful, so very wonderful, wonderful that He is mine. God is so wonderful, I can't explain, but I can say, glory, hallelujah, praise His holy name. I cast on Him my every burden, lay at His feet my every care. Oh, it's wonderful, wonderful, so very wonderful, wonderful that He is mine. God is so wonderful, I can't explain, but I can say, glory, hallelujah, praise His holy name.
I'd like Carol to come up, please. Carol Fry. When Mrs. Fry was dying 4 years ago, and she had glioblastoma, brain tumor, and this wonderful mind, this mind of this lady who had kind of as an orphan almost put herself through Moody back in the days years ago in 40s, and then to Wheaton College at that time, still fairly a good school, and what they knew about. And that mind could no longer let her speech come out right. And just before she was going to die, I was over there. She's a very good friend of, Bud and Bertha were very good friends of my husband and me. And Mrs. Fry said, things for Carol. And I said, well, you know, like getting things together. We guessed. Getting things together as a family, you know, as being left that way. And she went, no. And so I started guessing things. Are you worried about her being all alone and not having anybody to be pleased? Or yes. And tears streaming down her eyes. And I said, you want someone for her to be like accountable to? Yes. And I said, like, I was going to say preacher, and she went to me. And then she died a few days later. And then Carol was with her folks, and her folks said, what to do? What they meant, what will you do? And she gasped until she said, what will I do? And she said, well, you know, go ahead working at the college and everything. They wanted more. They said, Evans, Dr. and Miss Evans. I won't go through the whole charade, but it came out to that. My husband and I are experiencing a pretty much higher degree of wellness because of Carol. They didn't know I would be this sick when they said for her, they put me in charge of her and her in charge of us. They're still taking care of us from heaven. They had no idea that I'd get this sick, and they had no idea that something would come across her path as a nurse that she'd be able to help us with. My husband and I spend almost 3 times a week saying something about he's not had to be out of chapel because of sickness more than about 2 or 3 times this year, hasn't been, right. Which had been several times a week. If your kids like him in chapel, and if you like to come back see him leading singing like he used to, he has quite a bit of strength he hasn't had for quite a few years. And if you like my being at the spectacular, knowing that I'm here, Carol's been used to do that. She's been used to hold us up like this. And I wondered if you wanted to say something about that. This is it, people. This is what we've got to do for each other.
I go back to the days when I got to know Carol's parents, and her dad had never talked about his experience in World War II. He'd had terrible experiences in World War II. He was under a truck all one night in the South Pacific, not knowing if the soldier at the other end of the truck was an American or a Japanese. He didn't know if he should kill him or what. Had to stay awake, watching to see if the guy was going to kill him. When dawn came, it turned out the guy was not only an American, but a Christian. But he opened up and talked to me about his war experiences. I don't know, maybe because I teach history, I don't know. And we became dear friends, and her mom was such a tremendous person. Now Carol has been such a friend to Marlene and me, and she's the person that the Lord used for us to achieve a new plateau of wellness that we did not have until late July and August. And thank you for that, Carol. Thank you for propping us up on the lean-in side.
Carol, thank you, honey. Now, Carol says that she'll say the opposite. She had an offer this summer of a big nursing job, and I thought it was terrible that we let her, because we could only say we would try to help her with some of her bills. If she'd try to help, I said, if you try to help me get better, and we knew we were going to do some exercise and try to get a little more life out of this body, where I was spending 2/3 of the day trying to get ready for the other third of the day. So actually, we asked if she would not take the job and that we would try to help with some of the bills that she's just going to have in the summertime. And so I thought it was almost wrong to do that to her. But she turns around and thanks me over and over again. She says we are this to her.
When I contacted the hepatitis, when I got the hepatitis and the mono, they had wanted me to at least give 1 year to, not overdoing it for a year. And knowing me, that's a hard thing to do because I have a lot of energy. I want to do things. And even when I was sick, I finished my classes out, finished the semester up. And so they offered me, they said, we'll try and pay you what you make at the college and work for us this summer. And
I've got to say in here, I can't tell who, but someone knew that it was trying to happen and knew we didn't have the money. And they just saw to it that our caregiver was paid for 1 whole month of that summer. We didn't know how the money was going to come in so she could make her bills.
We decided we'd pray that the Lord would give me what I would have made if I was still working just one night at the doctor's office. We'd ask God to give us that amount this summer above what I was getting. And I was offered to work as an oncology nurse for a Christian doctor, and so I did what they said, and I was glad. I knew I was not well enough really to go take care of cancer patients, and when you're in an oncology unit, you work a lot of hours. It's very stressful. You're working with people that are terminally ill. You have to really know what you're saying and what you're doing. Drugs are very dangerous. I don't know if you know, but some of them, if they leak out of the needle, they can actually put a 3rd-degree burn. That's how strong some of the cancer drugs are. So you've really got to be on your toes. And I really didn't think I had the health to do it. And so I kept saying, I'm so glad that you've made a way for me to have time to exercise this summer, a little bit of a different schedule, less pressured. When I remember I told you I was reintroduced to the diet on July 13th, they were out of town. And so I was able to go to a class about the food. And I don't think I would have done that had I been very involved in another job, working a lot of hours. I know myself I wouldn't have. So every time, I'm just so thankful that they were willing to sacrifice, and it was a sacrifice for them to pay for me for the summer. And
we just had to see how the Lord would bring in to take care of it because we didn't have it.
It's funny how, Joy Ryder, I think about her a lot during this meeting because she's in New Guinea and would love to be here. And she and I are real close, like sisters. She knows she needs to be in New Guinea. And and of course my entire family's in heaven, and so it's just like the Lord puts needs together. You know, they really do need somebody that's coming in out somewhat like a daughter, and I really do need supervision, believe me. And my mom was right. Things. I think she was worried about the devil. Remember, she said that, the devil in the world. And so it's been a wonderful thing, the way the Lord's worked it out. They need me, and I do need supervision. I'm not a single ERA type lady. I have to have leadership. I feel secure with leadership. I like strong leadership. I've been blessed by having a dad. My dad was a major in World War II. I have had good leadership around me most of my life, and so when I'm not a part of it, I don't think I do as well. And so that I'm very thankful for. They've given me veto power decisions. I've given them veto power over my life, and they've made those decisions for me for the last 23 years, along with Dr. and Mrs. Hiles, and I need that. And so that's been a real comfort. It's a real secure feeling for me, because I feel like I've got to have my leaders that I know I'm pleasing them. And so that's what it's been for me. So they've propped me up, but at the same time I've propped them up. I don't know how that works, but
this what we've done with the food and the exercise, of course, have changed both of our lives. It's changed all three of our lives. So, of course, we're all very, very grateful to one another, and I'm grateful to the people who made it possible for us to be able to keep her. But she would have made about $15,000 this summer if she had taken that job. Of course, we could do nothing like that, just very, very, very little. But what that made it possible for us to pay her so that she could be our nurse and really help us find a way. She helped us find a way to achieve the wellness that we both have. And if it's been for just this time, it's been worth it. It's been worth it all. It's been wonderful to have the wellness that we've both had this amount of time. Brother Matt Bell, let's have a song.
Loved ones there, those who have gone before, eternal joys to share. And oh, what a song when that blood-washed throng starts singing a song the angels cannot sing. Oh, what a moment when we see Jesus, when we stand face to face in His embrace and thank Him for amazing grace. Oh, what a moment when we see Him. Harvest will then be past, we'll no longer gather. Only what's done for Christ is all that will matter. The seeds we have sown will then be made known. What joy shall fill our raptured souls that day. Oh, what a moment when we see Jesus, when we stand face to face in His embrace, and we thank Him for amazing grace. Oh, what a moment when we see Him. Oh, what a moment when we see Him.
the Boyds. There are so many ways to be the friends, the trees that hold up another tree. Brother and Mrs. Boyd spent a lot of time holding up one of their sons until he could grow again. Could you talk to us about it just a couple minutes?
The secret to having your kids come back to God is standing by right, no matter how much your heart is broken, and standing by them, right or wrong, no matter how much your heart is broken. And then it's the secret to being able to hold on is remembering that a perfect couple in a perfect garden, Adam and Eve, without pornography or movies or malls or drugs or cigarettes or alcohol, lost the son. And not to blame yourself, because that'll take more out of you than a wayward child. Just stick by them, love them unconditionally, but stand by right and be loyal to them and never give up on your convictions. Anything else to say, babe?
At the end, when our son had decided to go to another college and we knew it wasn't God's will, we had talked hours a week over Mark, and for years. And then we decided all we could do now, since he was older, he was an adult, was to love him and pray for him. And that's when he turned around. We just would brag on him and love him, and we prayed just all day long, earnestly, and that's when he turned, and he said on his own he was coming back.
One more thing, keep in mind sometimes that your troubled kids are often your most productive kids later, and they're also often the most honest kids. They're just being honest with the way they feel. Others may hide it and not do near as much for the Lord. So be encouraged. They're just being honest sometimes.
I'd like to say, too, now that we stuck with Mark. He is in Bible clubs. He is a very, very good soul winner. He married a very good woman, and he brings families down the aisle and really, really works for the Lord. He gets men saved at his job. He is constantly wanting to improve his life spiritually, and that wouldn't have happened without us really sticking by him and loving him and praying for him.
Brother Mark said that you so often commented to him about his work when you couldn't say good things about other things. He said he made you proud about his work. You mentioned brag on what you can brag on. Would you mention that?
I had a contract business for years, and my son worked with me, and he was a very hard, diligent worker. So I found lots to compliment him on. Also, he was an achiever and a conscientious person about a lot of things. And we just found every avenue that we could to praise him, and especially about the fact that he was a hard worker. And if he needed to stay up all night to accomplish something, he would, and that was something to brag on him about.
Brother Boyd, one other thing. I remember his telling me that he might not have his hair right and this type of thing, and you're being a leader around here, he thought you could be ashamed of him, but you always said whenever you want to, come sit with the rest of the family, and you just took whatever it meant to have him know that he was accepted with you no matter what. Could you comment on that?
My son was more important to me than my reputation. If you're not careful, your reputation will mean more to you than your kids, and you will lose them. They will know, and that should never be. Your children mean more to you, or ought to mean more to you than your reputation.
Brother, Miss Boyd, would you look up right here? To me, that's what you two were. You were just holding him up there until he could grow again. Isn't that right? Thank you so much. Thank you for being such a help to us that way. The Rogers, Brother and Mrs. Rogers. Brother Rogers had a terrible accident, And this is a husband and wife are standing by each other. By the way, it's not just the wife standing by the husband. It's the husband turning around and standing by the wife. A lot of times the one who's paralyzed feels that they cannot keep the wife, that they cannot keep her interest, and therefore they reject her. That happens often. So it's the husband and wife standing by each other. Is Brother Rogers here? He didn't come.
I don't know that he's here.
All right, fine. You go ahead, honey. He is here. All right. Yeah. Okay. Can you bring him up here? All right. You go ahead and start talking.
Okay. On September 11th, 1995, at approximately 2 p.m., I received a phone call at my home. It was my husband's employee informing me that my husband had just fallen 17 to 20 feet. I couldn't believe I was dialing 911 for a need of my husband. I left our home to go to the job site, not believing it was anything too serious. And I lost my place.
You can lose your place.
Okay. Not believing it was anything too serious. Arriving on the site at the same time as a paramedic, I remember seeing my husband's body lying there on the ground, legs twisted to the left and shoulders flat on the ground. I thought something is wrong with his legs, as he was very carefully being moved then onto a board, which much attention was being given to his neck. My husband began to intently, softly, and earnestly say, "My neck," and repeated this. I requested for some Tylenol or some pain reliever to be given to him. Just then he said, "My wife." I said, "I'm here." All along, he just stared straight up. I went on to the hospital and waited on the ambulance to arrive, and it was told to me later that he would be a few hours of testing before I could see him. So I prayed, left to go home and turn off our dinner, and to be sure that our 3 children, Sarah, Daniel, and Philip, would have a way home from school and be cared for until that evening. Upon returning to the hospital, our assistant pastor was there. We waited together to see my husband. It was told to us that he had broken his neck, and the seriousness of the injury was not yet to be known. So we went in to see him, and he was strapped down on a gurney. His body was out of control. And me not understanding the injury, and he had already looked so different all of a sudden to me. I began to look at those around his bedside, and I wanted to blame them. I thought maybe they had hurt him more than he was being hurt. Just then our assistant pastor said, "Let's pray." I began to realize there's no easy way out of this one. With our assistant pastor, we returned to the waiting room. I did not know where to begin reading my Bible, so he read for me and quoted, "God is good." It was soon to find out that my husband would be paralyzed from chest down, no longer have use of his hands. This was my 911 situation, and here are some things I learned and did. I kept a phone pad in my purse with phone numbers of relatives and friends, and this helped me with my frustrations and being able, with just the thought of a name, to touch base with concerning my children. I stayed positive with the children. I praised them for obedience and doing their best in school, helping around the house. I wasn't at home very much anymore. I was spending lots of nights at the hospital, and I was there a lot during the day, so I didn't want to lose touch with the children. I always knew where they were and what homes, and I always wanted to know and be sure that I could have that phone number when I needed it, and anything else I needed as far as getting in touch with someone. I began to see this as an opportunity to show my love in another way for my family. my own family in having no bitterness, and in keeping our vows, my church family with loyalty, and my husband with devotion, patience, encouraging him, being an encourager by being by his bedside many hours, a touch, a smile, and an I love you, and kept him informed concerning our life, our children's health, the blessings that we were having at home while he was there in the hospital, church services, and of course our bills. He always handled all that. I also allowed my church family to help. Well, I didn't really write off, but allow your church family to help. I went through the trial alone for a while. I drew strength from past sermons, people who were strong emotionally and spiritually. But I wanted to block people out of my life because of the hurt. I accepted this and changed, and I realized that God brought me here. It is by His will I am in this straight place, and in that fact I will rest. He will keep me here in His love and give me grace to behave as His child. Then He will make the trial a blessing, teaching me the things He intends for me to learn. In His good time, He can bring me out again, how and when He knows. So let me say I am here by God's appointment, in His keeping, under His training, and for His time.
So precious. Can you tell us a little bit how this lady has... can you turn him around so he can see this at all? This is 2 trees I saw, the redwoods. Where another tree's laying in 2 trees, and this one fell. And those 2 trees held this one up for 100 years until this one could grow again. What do you think about that? That's something. Can you tell us why you think she's somebody special?
Well, when I was in ICU for about 3 weeks, we talk a lot about what happened. I don't remember a lot about it. But one thing I do remember is when I was in ICU is every time I woke up, she was there. Every time, day and night. And she was just, I don't know how many times I woke up, but every time I was there, she was either at the foot of my bed or standing right next to me. Every time.
Brother Rogers, I didn't know you cared so much for me that you brought me roses. You want to give this girl some roses? I bet you. She's your queen. Give him a hand. This is our deacon. This man is our deacon.
Mrs. Evans. Well, we want to stand. We love Rogers. I'll wait. Every time that lady was at the hospital, she looked as beautiful as she does right now. Every time. Of course, Brother Colston spent time visiting them in the hospital, and he'd say, Elaine, you'd be proud of Mrs. Rogers. She's fixed up pretty, and I don't know if he even knows she's there, but she looks beautiful for her husband, and we appreciate you both.
Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you, gentlemen, for helping. Thank you for giving that sweet testimony. Oh, we can stand by people in such different ways. What about a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law? Dukevich? Oh, but what about when the mother-in-law isn't even the mother of your present husband, but the mother of the man who is no longer with you? Come stand by me, will you? Here are some facts concerning Mrs. Colbert and these people. Mrs. Colbert is a lady who's in heaven now and who worked with us at the college many years. She says, when my husband left me, Mom, actually his mother, stood by me, and we remained very close. First of all, a mother-in-law staying by, the daughter-in-law, and the children. Isn't that something? Then when Frank, this good man, came into my life, her life, he just naturally accepted her as family. You don't just naturally accept, do you? This is not natural. It's supernatural. They think it's natural. They're weird. They're peculiar people, like we talked about in the sense of peculiar today in another way. We always sat together in church and had Sunday dinner together. She was Mom to us, and of course she was our children's grandma. As the years went by, Mom's arthritis in her knees became worse, and we realized that eventually she would need us to help her more. We planned to be there for her just as she had been there for me. On a cold winter morning in 1990, Mom slipped on some ice and fell on her arthritic knees. It became more and more difficult for her to walk after that, especially up and down the stairs of her apartment. Frank looked at me one night and said he felt that we needed to move Mom in with us. We talked to Preacher about it, and with his approval, we started looking for a larger house with no steps, or better yet, a house with an in-law apartment where she could still have her independence and yet be close by so we could help her when needed. We found a house that we could add to on an efficiency apartment. However, before we closed on the house and moved in, Mom became very ill and was hospitalized and infirmarized for some time. While Mom was at the clinic at the college, we moved all of her furniture out of her apartment and put it in storage, took possession, moved into our new house, took out a second mortgage to pay for constructing the apartment. Frank worked on his day off and Saturdays, 12 to 14 hours a day, for almost 5 months until Mom's place was ready. Does it remind you of God's nature, redwood trees holding up another? Just going back and forth. Carol talks like our situation is for mutual benefit, and I believe it is. And they act like, well, Mom held up her, so they're going to hold up Mom for the rest of her life because Mom held up her. It's unusual today. It's not natural. They say it is. I beg to differ. It's not natural to even do this for your mother, your own mother. She wasn't the mother of either one of these people. Had never been his mother-in-law. But they made her Mom. We moved Mom in with us in April 1991. Mom was able to drive and work, but she was unable to take more than a few steps on her own and needed someone to get her wheelchair into and out of the car. The whole family pitched in, and Mom was very happy with us. Mom lived with us for 4.5 years, and we have many blessed memories of our years together. As I came into the school, on someone's arm, barely able to know what was going on, sometimes I saw the children, the older, young adult children, taking out the wheelchair out of the back, putting their grandmother, Mom, into the wheelchair, seeing to it that she got to work, and it did not go unnoticed by me. I noticed those things. I think the world notices too. They said, you sure you want us? Yeah, because you want to start doing this with me? Because they're this. Do this with me. About like it is up there. About like it is up there. Not laying clear down in, but just holding up till she can grow again. In her case, she was able to go on working because of these people. Was useful. Felt needed. And then, of course, is growing again because she's in heaven. But these people are these kind of people. Anything you can say to add?
Well, all I can say is nobody understands how much Mom meant to me when she did support me, stand behind me, back me, when I was going through a divorce from her son, and not of my choosing, but without her backing, I don't know where I'd be today. I don't think I would have been able to stay in this church. I would have felt so much shame. I don't think I would have been here. And I always think of that without her supporting me, you know, I really don't know where I'd be. So, you know, it was no big deal. She needed us, and we just wanted to help her like she helped me. And my husband's really the amazing one, the way he took her in and sacrificed for her.
Could you explain your feeling about that a little bit? How could you, another man's mother?
It was really no big deal. God is love, and when he saved me out of a life of sin, he came into my heart and filled it with love, and came down here to find a wife mainly, and I got the best one in the church. Brother Hiles matched us up, and he told me that she's a wonderful lady and has got 3 kids, but she's worth 3 kids, but I didn't know I'd be getting 2 mother-in-laws, and 2 out of 3 isn't bad, so. But one of the things that made me decide to marry Elaine, made my decision that I loved her, is her devotion to Mom Colbert, knowing that they weren't flesh and blood. And Elaine's really the modern-day Ruth, and I'm just old Boaz. I just came along, and the Lord's just so good.
Thank you very much. Thank you for no big deal. Jean Dotson, would you come out, please? And the people with you, please. 2.5 years ago, when I had the surgery for ovarian stage 4 cancer and hadn't been able to take care of my own house anyway because of degenerative disc disease and so forth, Jojo Moffat talked to Jean Dotson, and what Jojo say to you?
She just said that maybe I would like to be of help to you, that there were just some things you weren't able to do right now with the home, with the house, and she just asked if I'd like to help.
Do you remember the other day when my husband was home and you all were cleaning, or one time recently, and he said something, I don't know what we'd do without you ladies, and you said to him, I hope you never have to find out. That's what she said. And now that I'm a little bit better, last summer, these people are fine. They are people who could do all kinds of things. They don't have to come in and clean for somebody else. And you know, people usually get $40, $50, $60 to clean. You know what they do? They give me things to clean. I mean, the other day I came home and there were 4 pumpkins, and every one of them had decided they'd all bring a pumpkin this time to leave on the front porch. Explain what you do. You come in and bring your...
Right, you provide the cleaning supplies, and we just...
At first you brought your own.
Right, we did, but then, and we just come over every Monday morning and look around, see if there's any notes, anything special that needs to be done, and we each have our certain rooms that we do.
Explain that, like what does Miss Sparks do, tell what each one.
Okay. Joanne Sparks now has switched to laundry. Sometimes we switch around. And Sheila has been doing the dusting and vacuuming, and Leanne has been doing the bathrooms, and we have another lady, Joanne Gregory, who isn't able to be here right now, and she helps around, and I do kitchen and garbage.
Now, people, this usually happens for, during a crisis, but this has gone on for 2.5 years. And like I said, I didn't know that it would go on this long. I don't know how much longer it's going to go on, but what she said was she hoped we didn't have to get used to not having them. That's what I hope too. And when I said one time Mrs. Sparks was there working, and I was just sitting. I was home. Usually I'm at school or working, or I was home. And I was walking around doing as well as I am now, and they were doing the work there. And I thought, I guess they must think, what must they think? I was sitting actually doing a chapter of that new book. So people ask me, how do you do this and that? This is how. This is how, right here. I'm not having them come out to honor them. That is not the point. I'm having them come out to say, how could none of them, they come one time a week, come a couple hours. They're not, I hope, doing anything to ruin their own families or anything like that. You know, sometimes one person does everything. And with Carol, people have said, are you sure you should be putting into Mrs. Evans? She's going to die. And you've already lost Keith, Dad, so forth. And so we watch carefully that she has another life. In this summer, she's done a lot. She did a lot of the all kinds of things, cleaning and everything, because she didn't have another job. But generally, you know, she wants to go out with her friends and all that and do a lot of other things. And she teaches out at the college, and she's not around, you know, to just make me or our family her whole life. You know, and I don't want anybody to do that. Sometimes in a church, when there's a crisis, a 4 or 5 year crisis, people get so involved when the person's gone, there's no one left. They don't know what to do with their lives when it's all over. And but this has been what they've done. And I just wanted to show them to you because I think it's unnatural. I think it's very peculiar. The peculiar as in how Christians can be peculiar. Thank you very much. Wanda Cape and Leslie and Angie. This is another peculiar situation, very peculiar. 4 years ago, this little gal, Wanda Cape, when my daughter left after a furlough, was it because my daughter left and you and she love each other? Why was it? Why she came and remember how I begged you not to promise me?
Yes, ma'am. My mother had just died with cancer while we were in Bible college, and my husband and I came back home after the funeral, and we decided that we would sink our lives into somebody else to help with the grief. And Mrs. Evans and Dr. Evans came to our mind, and I called her and I asked her if I could take the day that Mrs. Arliss Cooper did not cook for her and cook meals for her on that day, and she made me promise that I would not make myself a commitment, but I knew in my heart already that I was going to do it every week.
I know. I stood there at the door and I said, please don't say you're going to do that because it's just too much money. It takes too much and you'll have to do other things. And I didn't want her to break a promise and feel guilty then. And so I didn't want her to make that commitment to me.
But people think that people who are in Christian service and they're always before people and they're always speaking, that they are well taken care of. And that is not true. And we knew that, my husband and I. So every Thursday evening, I carried Southern meals over to her. I poisoned her, actually.
We sure like getting poisoned. We'd have been eating hamburgers over at Shoop's otherwise, wouldn't we?
But I made home-cooked meals. I'm from Georgia. So beans and taters and cornbread and okra and squash casserole and were some of their favorites. But we enjoyed doing it, and we always looked forward to our Thursday evening meal because that was the best meal our family had that week, too.
Then her husband graduated and went to Georgia. So wouldn't you think it would stop? Wouldn't you? She would have nothing but what'd you do?
Well, I have a friend named Leslie, and she had asked me one day about how I come about with, how did you get to cook for Mrs. Evans, she said. I said, well, I just did it. Just called up and said, could I do this for you? And she said, oh, that's really nice. And I said, and we're going to be leaving soon. I'm really looking for somebody to take my place because I know that they need it. And I know it's an appreciation. They really appreciated it. I got notes, thank you notes, and they were always real appreciative of the meals that were sent over. And it was just love. You know, I felt like I was loving them by sharing. You know, Christ said that in his word, if you feed the least of these, and you fed me. And that's the way I took it, and that's the way I felt about it. And even though they probably didn't need it really, but I was showing my love to them. So Leslie, my friend, she kind of asked me, she said, oh, I would really be interested in that. And so I trained her how to cook the meals that they enjoyed. And because she's from California, she doesn't know that you add bacon grease and ham hock and all that good stuff to your food. So
that's what we like. And we've been in the South I'd been in the South 21 years.
So I told my friend Leslie, I said, you know, take this as a, how did I word it to you? Yeah, I told her, I said, take it seriously and that it's commitment and that you want to do it. Don't never begrudge doing it. And I never did. It was just a blessing that I could do it.
I just want to say that it's been a privilege to me to get to do something for Mrs. Evans. And I have never begrudged doing it, and I love to have that opportunity to do it. And that's all I have to
And
say.
she followed in your footsteps, Wanda. When she had a foot operation, the next thing I know, she had someone doing the same thing on Thursday night. So it's been a long time. And sometimes we haven't been able to eat it ourselves, or we get it where we don't have to take the plates back, disposable plates. And if we're not there, they know what to do with it. We don't have to. And if we can use it over the weekend, if we need it for visitors, it doesn't really matter. We're under it's truly a gift. You know what I mean by one that frees you up, a true gift. It's a true gift, but it's gone on for 4 years. Angie, how did you hear about it? Because all of a sudden on Friday night, does anyone want to take Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday? Angie, how long ago was it? When I got sick 2.5 years ago?
Yes, when you got cancer, I asked Lynette Stroud if there was anything I could do for you. And I cook, so she said that would be the one thing I could do.
And then she found out that we were on the salads and stuff, so all the food's been changing, right?
It's very interesting.
Very interesting to try to keep up with all that.
You feel guilty not making dessert.
Not cooking and all that stuff. Like, again, instead of saying anything to us about, something different and it's being too hard, she just goes with whatever. I think it's unusual. 4 years, 2.5 years, I think it's unusual. Don't you? It's this. Let's put our hands up. It's this. Thank you very much, girls. Thank you very much. Brother Bill McSpadden. Susie, come up. Susie, come up. Tell Susie to get Susie. Brother Bill came to our college when he was 17, and he was in my speech class. And he didn't like activities or anything like that. Really. Right. And you hadn't done any acting. And he was more, he really is. He's a scholar, he's a reader, he's a thinker, he's a writer, he goes out and hunts, but puts the gun down and reads a lot of that time, but then picks it up and gets something. Sort of laid back. And he had the misfortune of getting into my speech class. He was used to getting very high grades. So who you've seen him as all these years really isn't who Bill McSpadden is. It's who he added to who Bill McSpadden is. He knocked out the dimensions, and added some more. But it really isn't. And I've heard people say, somebody said to me, he's a pastor. Well, boy. They don't know he counsels, writes, speaks, preaches, teaches, that's the skits and all that's just something he added because it was needed. And when he was in that speech class, I was working with activities, and I thought he was really good with activities probably because every time I called for him in speech, he came out of the ceiling or from under the pulpit. I didn't know where he was going to be, and so I thought, boy, he's really good at this. And what he told me later was that he asked, how do you get a good grade in Mrs. Evans' speech class? Because he found out that people who got really good grades in everything else did not get a good grade in my speech class. Because if you just gave a normal speech, you just didn't really get a good, he wanted an A. So he did all these crazy things. So because he did all these crazy things, I asked him to work for activities. He called home to his dad. What'd you say?
I told my dad, I said, Dad, they want me to work in activities at the college. He said, take it, son. I said, Dad, that's the last thing I want to do. He said, son, you'd be foolish not to take it. He said, get in and take it. He said, Dad, please don't make me do this. I did it.
He said the folks wanted you to, didn't he? He said,
I did it just...
What do the folks want you to do there? He said, go by the...
Oh, he said to do what they said. So I said, yes, sir, Dad. So I did it because my dad told me.
And he did it about almost, how many years?
18 years.
18 years. He was going to be a pastor, and we just stopped him for a while. And I was working with activities those first years, and he always saw to it that I could be a lady. I didn't always do it, but he always saw to it that I could be a lady, and he could protect me and take care of me so that I could be a lady for him to work for me. And then in recent years, he was his own boss and was over the activities department, and he did a lot of the helping at the spectacular. But guess what? He's moved to Iowa and has a church there. Well, how many ladies? Stand. Will you stand? They were one of the winners. They're still right here.
Stand up, ladies. Do what you're told.
He's still at the spectacular, only through those wild ladies back there. And when he was leaving, would you tell him a little bit what you told me about if I needed something? If I needed something.
Oh, I told Mrs. Evans, I told Dr. Evans, told Brother Hiles, and I said, if you ever need anything at all, I said, I'm just moving away a little ways, but you just call and I'll be there. And I love these people. I love this place. It's very hard, 20 years at this place. And to move is very hard after you leave. And I lived in this area all my life. And so, you know, moving away from home. But I told them, you just name it, call me day or night, and I'll be there and I'll do what I can to help you. And I mean it too.
And when he left, he didn't forget it. I got the addresses and the telephone numbers, everything as fast as possible. And I've already been there once. And now his people are here. They were at our youth conference. I mean, he really, it's this. It's like this, holding you up. I could go on. I'm looking at faces where this has happened. There is no way we could ever stop it. There's so many people like this. Thank you very much, Brother Bill. I sure do appreciate it. I want the Tuesday meeting group, please. Tuesday meeting group, please. People, I want you to catch it. If you don't have it already, maybe your church has this. But without hurting your family, could you catch some of this? It's all over here. I can't look without seeing it. Maybe I don't believe I saw it that much in other places where I've been. Maybe I did and didn't see it. I don't know. But if it can be in nature, it surely can be in this kind of nature. Surely it can be with us. Susie, come up here. Susie has been with me how many years at the spectacular? Every spectacular?
I missed 3 of them.
You had to miss 3 of them. Why did you have to miss those?
Well, once we lived in California, and I didn't even know about the spectacular then. And then another year, we had some girls that we were camping. We didn't know what to do with them, but I came.
Susie, as long as I'm alive, will you keep coming back to see me? Things have changed a little bit, haven't they, in that you're not quite have the opportunity to come back here, but your mom's seeing that you get back here. And if you really tell your mom you really want to see me, doesn't she get you back here or someplace where I'm speaking? They say I've stayed by her when no one else had ever given her a check, and she worked for Christian Womanhood. But you know what? She was there for me, and she's always been there for me. And it's sort of this. Let's do it again. People, do you have it? Do you understand? Do you see what I'm talking about? Thank you very much, Susie. Where's the file? This is a Tuesday afternoon group. Loretta Walker, 3 years ago, or 4, ladies, 3? At the spectacular time, said the people who help you in any way, why don't they get together every noon on a particular day, and we now get together, and Mrs. Mitchell's my secretary, and she's there. She brings the veggies. Can we have some? Aren't you all hungry? I know you are. Give them some veggies. She brings the veggies, and we used to have bad stuff. Now we have good stuff. However, if they have the bad stuff, I don't say anything. Do I? No, try not to. So different. Jane Grafton works with Christian Womanhood. Chris Grafton is not working directly with me at this time, but she was brought in as an outside moderator, more or less, to see that we kept going on schedule. Miss Cooper works for me with my personal errands and with things from the home. Mrs. Mitchell was secretarial in the office. Linda Stubblefield with the Christian Womanhood paper, and Mrs. Moffat with the classes. And so we get together, and we knew I couldn't do even my personal things, and take care of my personal things. And so each one of them in their own field of expertise has kept me going the last 2.5 years. This has been the key, I guess, almost should say. The key to my being able, especially until this year, has been a little better for my being able to do things myself, but especially until this year, for me to even be able to keep going out to the school. What do we have?
I brought notebooks and pen, Miss Evans, so they can write down.
Yeah, I have paper and pen too.
Okay, we're trying to make it exactly, and to actually do what, we put things in a file all week long, Tuesday meeting, 12 to 1, and after chapel, and actually do right here what we do usually. Do you have my airplane tickets for the Maine Mini Spectacular, which is this weekend? I can never remember.
No, it's near your birthday, and the tickets just came in on Thursday, and so you'll have them Monday. We'll get copies made.
Okay,
so
do we have somebody to take me?
How
will I know?
I will let you know Tuesday.
Okay, does this sound just like it? Mm-hmm. Okay, will I have my trip sheet and all that so I know where I'm
Yes,
going?
Cindy Lyon will take care of that.
Okay, so everything's on course about
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Okay. Arliss, did you get the Rolodex?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I did not.
All right. What
Lisa Bates is doing that this week after Spectacular.
So she will get it?
Yes, ma'am.
When can she count on it?
By Friday.
Okay. See, here's a girl that needs to get a camisole. What am I supposed to do about that? Can somebody help us with that or what?
Why don't I give that to Miss Castile, and we'll get her some
We
help.
need to give this to Miss. Okay. Okay, Vicki, you'll get that to Miss Castile. Okay, good. All right. In other words, it looks like she doesn't look right. We need to let some of us know. Okay. Jojo, how can classes be exciting for the Monday after the Spectacular when they come in all tired from the Spectacular and the bus routes and everything else? What can we do to pizzazz up the classes?
Let me work on put them on to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm taking a nap.
Let's see. We have Monday. We have general psychology at 8. We have Christian woman at 9, and we have speech at 10. Where am I? I can't even remember where I am. I'm starting a new chapter in Redbirds, Rubies, and Rainbows in general.
Right. It's all brand new. And see, we think we could be doing a little bit on Mrs. Harrington. I think we're working on that, just a little bit on Mrs. Harrington in the speech class. And they're working on speeches also. We're all ready for speech.
Okay.
And the book is right up on top of your top shelf for you
So
to
I can
teach
choose
on.
my new
So you're
chapter.
all set.
It's already
in
go.
general
It's already
psychology.
there, right?
Well, I
sitting there
think we ought to
waiting
do
for
something a little pizzazzy.
Good.
Okay. All right. Tuesday meeting. Jojo, I'm not getting my second carrot juice yet. The first one is no problem. But the second one, I'm leaving it in the refrigerator. I don't know how to get it down me. I mean, I know how to get it down me, like medicine. But, I mean, how do I get it so I be sure to get it?
Probably I just need to hand it to you myself.
Okay. Now, what if you happen to have to be...
I'll have a backup. I'll get a backup. I know somebody who's already asked to
Okay,
help out.
it's $1 or something, and if we just leave it
No,
sit
it's-
there,
well, it's-
that's going to be a real waste of money, okay? What about the Spectacular cleanup? How are we coming? You all...
It's going really good, and we will, I think everything, of course, will be cleaned up. Ms. Castile has everything arranged for cleaning the auditorium every bit.
People, why can there not be 911 groups like this in a church? Why can't there be 5 or 6 women who have different fields of expertise, and when there's something that happens in a church, they can go in and say, what are you worried about, if they're wanted? I could do this, I could do that, I could do the other thing. Why could there not be a group like that where one person doesn't have to do so much? Now, true, some people don't want help, and it'd be better to do it all yourself, but if you can't do it all yourself, we could keep somebody going like this until they could grow again. The Boyd's boy is growing again. I don't know how long I'll be growing again, but I have grown again as far as being able to do some work because of people like this and the ones I've just shown you. Who do you hold up? Who do you hold up? Who's saying to you, who is saying to you, I need help? And you're saying, I can't give it. I don't have time. But in what way could you give it? Just one thing. In what way could you give help? Who is saying to you, hold me up till I grow again? Is the world seeing us do this for each other? Now sometimes the world will do this. You see in papers where people get paralyzed and they visit them for 5 years. They sustain a burden for 5 years. Somebody visits them for 5 years. Do you? How can you be an answer to 911? What do you need to do? What do you need to do for someone you've been thinking, I need to do something for someone? I stand here because of people like this. How could you help someone until they could grow again, even for a little while? Who needs help, and how could you stand by them? You might not be able to take them into your house like the Dekeviches did. You might not be able to do some of the things that some of these people have talked about. But what could you do? What could you just do every week for someone so that Christians wouldn't have to have support groups outside the church? We don't need to be going to these support groups. They are wicked. They are 12-step stuff. They are based on, if you believe in you can believe in God if you want to, or you can believe in a light switch, the higher power of a light switch. They really are. We're thrown with all these people that are not Christians, and all these people who are worshiping something like a 12-step group. Let's have our support group be our church. What do you need to do? Are you thinking right now of something you could do for someone? Would you bow your heads and close your eyes? How many of you say, there's not a lot of compassion, by the way, shown one to another. How many of you say, I don't think I've shown the compassion I should to someone I should show it to, and I'm thinking of something I could do regularly, and maybe I could see myself doing it a year. I'm thinking of something just like that, where I can be one of those redwood trees holding up another. Would you raise your hand if you're thinking of something like that? Good. Good. Would you come up here? Would you stand up and come up here and make that decision? I think this is very spiritual. I think this is very, very much a testimony to the world. I go to bed crying many a night. And I put this in the front of my book on my dedication because I dedicated it to my cancer buddies. Wondering what my cancer buddies, who they have. Like a 911 support group, a Tuesday noon group like I have over here. I just happen to be blessed to have that. I wonder who they have. Like people who just come in and clean, or people who send, or whatever they might want. Someone who would do errands for them. I think, people honor me, and people say I'm very courageous. I really think it's the people behind me that are so courageous. Those are the people I think are courageous. They're my heroes. Preacher often talks about the people who have been here through the years, here in the church, and have stayed by him through whatever has happened here. The laities, he loves them very much and is very concerned for Brother Laity, we mentioned, who is going through the last of his radiation. And people like Mary Ruth Harrington, who's been 48 years at Sunday school teacher here. What do we do here in our church? What we do for our heroes? Those are our heroes. What do you do? This isn't like we've already done about the soul winning, the giving up pants and all like that, but what do we do for one another? Inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me. Would some of you come up here and tell me what you're going to do? One sentence. What have you decided you're going to do because of what you saw up here? One sentence. Would you come up here? A whole line of you come up here, will you? And be ready. And I need people to help me. Okay? I want some ideas from you of what you got. One sentence. Not give me the whole background. Just say there's a sick lady, or there is this person, and this is what I can do, and just give one sentence. Do you all know how to give one sentence? Okay, come on, right here, honey. All right. I was just going ahead until you were ready.
I'm going to check on an elderly lady in our church every week and make sure that she doesn't need for anything.
And this is what I stood and said to Wanda Cape. The first lady who came up said she was going to give me some food every Thursday night. This is how I question. I say, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure you can do it every week?
Yes, ma'am.
Unless you really are sick in bed. You're really sure you have it in your schedule to do every week, because don't get her ready to expect something you cannot keep up.
I can at least make a 2-minute phone call.
You can at least, okay, start small. Then if you can do a little bit more, start with what you believe you can do, you can see yourself doing for a year, okay? Thank you very much, okay? Let's get it.
I just would like to be a better encourager to my family around the house, and just in helping my mom around the house.
You're going to just do more work around the house. That's a good one right there. Thank you so much, Yvonne. All right. Boy, don't we mothers like that. Okay, now I'm going to let them stay on either side. I was just doing this until you all could get set up. I'm sorry. I'm not explaining myself, I guess. All right, get them, the ones who come up here, get them set up. And then, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go.
That's funny. Yvonne was just right before me because she was the one I immediately thought of when you started even speaking today. And that when she was 12 years old, the Lord put a special place in my heart for her, and I haven't done enough for her. So I just.
What can you think you could do for her?
Well, I can't say because it's all in my head and it's a surprise.
It's going to be a surprise. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
I'm going to take care of my husband better, meeting his needs as a pastor as much as I possibly can.
Thank you. Okay.
My parents both
Something
have,
definite you can do.
Yes, my parents both have some health problems that, you know, they're not seriously ill, but it causes them to slow down a little bit, and I just decided to start doing some more housework and some other surprise things also.
Surprise things and some particular housework?
Yes.
Good. Oh, this is big. Okay.
We've gone through a lot of trials this last year, and my husband has been very discouraged, and I just want to be that redwood tree to hold him up.
Great, great. Okay. Something specific you're going to do?
Well, when someone loses a loved one, it's very devastating. And I just thought that maybe it would be a good idea that being that I know what it's like, if I could be there for someone else the way the people from my church were there for me.
Good. Something specific you're going to do.
I have a daughter that has gone wayward, and my husband and I have really been having a hard time with it. And I learned from Brother Boyd today I need to stick by her and love her and tell her how much good she is.
Good. And don't be ashamed in the church. Really, keep your head up high. If you're loving your child, keep your head up high when you walk into the church. Okay? Yes. Yes.
I have a friend with crippling arthritis, and when I'm in town, I drive her to the doctors more often.
You're going to drive her to the doctors more often when you're in town.
Right.
Good.
I'm going to write to my daughter 3 times a week. She just got married this summer, and her husband's a doctor, and I'm just going to encourage her.
You're going to write her 3 times a week.
Right.
Excellent.
I'm speaking for both my cousin and I. My grandma has cancer, so we decided we're going to help her cook more meals and help her clean her house more.
You're going to help her cook her meals and clean her house. Excellent. Okay? These are the specifics. These are great specifics.
I want to help my preacher's wife, Mrs. Haynes, more, and my pastor. A lot of you know Mrs. Haynes says, she's had sickness in her life. She's doing a lot better, but I want to do more for her. I would like to maybe cook a meal for her and help clean her house.
Cook a meal and clean. Yeah. Okay?
There's a lot of people that the Lord laid on my heart to be a better help in my church and to be there for them and encourage some of my closest friends and to pray for them a lot more than what I've been doing.
Okay, good.
I'm going to encourage a girl in our church to keep on going for the Lord and to keep going strong.
Good.
Mrs. Haynes, several months ago I volunteered to do work for you, and I haven't been doing that.
What did you volunteer? Something you could tell us?
Anything that she needed help with.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
We have Bibles that she's going to be given to her girls, and I've taken some home, and I've done some of the work, but I haven't kept up with it.
Okay.
I've just let other things get into my life. And
so you're promising her?
That I'm going to stick to my promise to help you with whatever you need on my day off.
Thank you. All right.
A very dear friend of mine and her husband are going out on deputation right now, and her mom just recently moved in the area, and I'm going to have her over on Sundays and Wednesdays and just be an encouragement to her.
You're going to start having her on Sundays and Wednesdays, and you can do it every Sunday and Wednesday? Don't do it both right off if you can't keep it up, okay?
I'm going to be an encourager and a supporter for Miss Limix, who has a sick grandson and always finds time to bake me monkey bread and chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes, my pastor's wife is Miss Millie Hobbins, and she has a share-a-thon every year, and I want to do what I can do during that week especially to be, exactly what she needs.
Oh, great, great. One more.
We have a
or
lady.
This lady, too.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a lady in our church that's been involved in the nursery for 2 years, and I'd like to help loosen the load for her.
Great.
I have several ladies in our church that are going through a really rough time, and I feel like I haven't been as much encouragement as could be.
Thank you so much. You who are up here forward, let's pray. Heavenly Father, I pray that you'll help them to know how to help. I pray that you'll keep them diligent and not doing more than they can keep sustained. And I pray that you'll help the people that they're going to be a blessing to. Lord, if I could provoke anyone to do for others, it could just be nothing compared to what's done for me. I feel guilty almost for what all's been done for me. Please, Lord, help, as I've often prayed, help what I do to be worth all that people are doing for me. In Jesus' name, amen. You maybe take your seats, and we'll give out pictures of this picture right now.
There's one lady left.
All right, go ahead. One lady here.
Last year, I received a small starfish where we made a commitment to
small starfish last year where you made a commitment.
And I did that for a very good friend of mine who was in a very bad marriage. Since that time, I've left that job, and I've kind of given up on her, and I'm going to renew that.
Renew that commitment of that starfish last year to help that lady. That's great. Now, the pictures can be given out. Every one of you is to receive a picture to remind you. Let's do it again. It's gone so fast. They say we've had as much of a spectacular this year as last, but it's gone a lot. It's been much more intense, much faster, hasn't it? About 20 minutes difference, maybe, something like that, by changing our times. I hope you'll take this picture. You'll remember the redwoods holding up their other redwood until it grew again. God bless you, and I love you, and thank you for a wonderful, spectacular